guys, welcome to another episode of Not Your Typical Tea.
Hi guys.
So we're back again for another episode of social distancing, Not Your Typical Tea. And I have to admit, I'm definitely missing you lot.
Missing you guys.
But I am enjoying not having to wear makeup for this episode, can't lie.
Or wig. You could only see what we see right now. Woo!
Honestly, it's all very, very wild.
We need to find out how everyone felt about the cartoons. Cartoon Jorden, Cheryl and Esther.
That was brilliant. I need a cartoon.
The cartoon hero.
Of my own. I love cartoons as well, so it'd be so sick.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, who did that? Cheryl, well done for that. I liked that. The creativity was a lot. I like that.
It's brilliant.
Guys, send your feedback. Tell us what you think. If you liked it, if you missed our faces, if you missed the beat.
Exactly. And so for those of you who maybe this is your first episode, you're tuning in, go back and watch the rest of them. But my name's Jorden. That's
Cheryl.
And I am Esther.
Oh, we do this every week. I think we have to have an order for how we do our names. Because me and Esther is wrong.
Let's do it alphabetically. So Cheryl, you're first.
Wow, I forgot my alphabet. No, in my head we do it as we.
Cheryl,
as
you're right.
Hi, my name is Cheryl.
I'm Jorden.
I swear E's before J.
And oh, it is.
This is a mess. I'm
Okay,
Esther.
great. Yeah. I think this is COVID. I think COVID has done this to us because
COVID
before we never had
scrambled our brain. Scrambled our brain.
Literally. Well, okay. Let me try to moderate and let me try to moderate how this podcast goes today. Seeing as I now have joined ClubHouse, so I'm in the.
Yeah, it's about time.
Thank you, and I want to thank Cheryl and Nicola for helping that to happen, because without you guys, it wouldn't have.
I see what last night you were a ClubHouse groupie. You were jumping from room to room. I saw you in this room, then I saw you in this room. Then she said she was going to bed. I saw her still in the room.
Can you see that? I'm jumping between rooms?
I see everything.
There was a lot going. Well, there wasn't a lot going on, but I was in a room and it got a bit heated. I don't know what happened because I'm still getting used to the platform, obviously. But there was one room I was in, a Valentine's.
Was it the room I've been in?
Yes.
Was it the room I've been in? So this was no likey, no lighty room.
Yes, this one.
What's that show called?
Take Me Out.
Yeah, it was a Take Me Out room. Yeah, and this girl came on, as in, so you come onto the stage and then you get to basically choose your men. And the girl came on, and then all of a sudden this guy comes on and it's like, "Are you actually on this stage?" I'm not going to say her name. "Are you actually on this stage? Why is my baby mum on this stage?" And then started cussing. What? And then started cussing, and then they both came off the stage. I thought they were trolling, but then they came on again, and then she was like, "Do you know what? I'm so sorry for that. That's my baby father. Like, things are a bit patchy at the moment.
Yeah,
we're not together."
I didn't like it at all.
He came back on.
Yeah,
and he started ranting again.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
oh my
I didn't like it.
Sounds disastrous.
It was. I didn't like it at all. I didn't like the way he was swearing for her, swearing, and I thought, because I thought, what is happening here? Is this your girlfriend? And then when his friend, so they both left the room, and then one of his friends must have still been in the room, and his friend was like, "Oh, that's his baby mom. You know, like things are difficult." And I thought, so she's not girlfriend, she's not wife. Leave her alone.
Leave her
alone.
Let her check her Prince Charming.
Ain't lying. That's right.
Honestly, because it's not you. It's not you, bro. It's not you.
That's
I
horrible.
think we need to have an episode about baby fathers and baby mothers, and dating someone with a troublesome
ex-partner.
Partner.
Yeah. Because I didn't like that. Even though it was like a 2-3 minute interaction, I didn't.
It was toxic. It was toxic.
And you know that they both came off, and you know, it was immediate phone calls. Like, you just know it was immediate.
Wait, have you seen the guy? Yeah, that's got the keyboard. Who's like,
yeah. Yes.
What
Yes.
the actual hell?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Shocking.
Yeah,
But that was my introduction to Clubhouse. I was on it until 2 a.m. last night.
What?
I was on it during the day today. Jumped into a couple of rooms. Interesting stuff. So keep an eye on this space. And I think we should get a not your typical tea Clubhouse going, start a few rooms. But
Yeah,
we definitely should actually. We definitely should.
I still haven't fully like
saying it. I've been saying it.
I know, I agree with you to be
Saying it. There's some really good worship rooms in there as well.
Yes,
There's
I
some
saw.
fantastic worship rooms. I was in one today with Osh and Bobby Bonner.
Yes, Bobby.
I'll plug both of them. And Poetess, I think her name is.
Okay.
And they had that room going for 5 hours.
Wow.
Solid. People coming in, giving their testimonies, people coming in asking to be prayed, asking to be healed, prophecies being given. It was just like an overflow. And I only joined the last hour, but just the power in those rooms. And the thing is with Clubhouse, for anyone that's on there, it can be very toxic and it can be mentally draining. Like for anyone that I can understand when people have to take a break from it, because even I myself, I have to take a break from, because some of those rooms just constantly like bashing women or men are this, women are that. And it's so refreshing to have those rooms where it's just worship, come as you are. They're brilliant. Okay.
Well, let me stop the Clubhouse talk. That was my fault, and that was my little update for how I've been over the last few weeks. Just
I'm glad it's you this week. I'm glad it's you.
Yeah, it is me this week, and
now you understand.
I do understand. I absolutely understand it, and you know what? The people who design Clubhouse are very clever, because now is the time during this third lockdown when life feels weird and mad, and time is going fast and slow all at the same time. Just sitting, like having Clubhouse like on in your living room makes you feel like you're in a community, and it's very much. It feels very much. It's helpful. It's helpful. It's toxic and it's drama. It's helpful.
Yeah.
Cheryl, how's your couple of weeks been?
So I'm going to round off with just one more Clubhouse.
No.
No, you guys are going to laugh with this one. My boss has joined Clubhouse.
Oh.
What?
Listen.
Wait, joined Clubhouse and added you?
Before I could block him. So I saw his name come up and I was like, oh man. And then as I was about to go and block him, I've gone to check if he's already following me. So I was like, okay, I can either block him or I just have to follow him and take the L. So I just have to follow him and take the L. But he's cool people.
Okay.
It just means I can't be on there during the day. Or I can't be in that, like you know, like you get those rooms that you know you shouldn't really be in, but you just go and see what's happening. But now everyone can see what room you're in.
What? Oh no, no thanks.
I mean, I only go in wholesome rooms, but on the occasion I accidentally go into the wrong room.
Your finger slips, yeah.
My finger slips.
All right then.
Finger slips.
Besides Clubhouse, how have you been?
It's been nuts, you know. It's been like relentless meetings after meetings, and it's cold. I haven't been on my Bojo walk in a week. In fact, I did go, but I went to go and get Chinese, so I don't think that counts.
You know what? Life is all about balance.
It's all about balance.
Life is all about balance.
Balance.
That is so funny. And Esther, how have you been over the last few weeks?
Yeah, good. Just usual, busy with work and stuff and the kids. And I started reading I read a really interesting article. Well, I shouldn't laugh actually, because it's not actually that funny. But I was just kind of shocked. So there was this guy and he was engaged. I can't remember what country it is. I think it may have been Singapore or something like that. And then he attacked his fiance because they were incompatible because of their star sign.
What? He attacked his fiance?
He attacked his fiance because they were incompatible in terms of their star signs. I was like, are you actually okay? Like,
what country did you say they were from?
I think it was Singapore. I can't remember.
Because I remember the guy that sued his wife because she got plastic surgery, didn't tell him, and then when they had kids, the kids came out, in his opinion, ugly. So then he was suing the wife for lying because she didn't tell him that she had surgery done.
Yeah, I read that.
You remember that?
Yeah.
Oh my days.
Mad.
Yeah.
So when I read, I was like, people are actually intense. Well, I don't know what you guys use on star signs anyway. But as Christians, we have to be careful. But yeah, I just know that certain star signs. Yeah, I just see. I'm like, no, report and lock because I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
I'm like, if you
I don't
start
know. I don't think I don't particularly. I used to. I don't particularly prescribe to it anymore because I just think. I think about the people that I've dated and they've been different star signs, and if you're a douche,
but do you think there's not a pattern with like certain juices in certain star signs?
I can't even monitor when my monthly thing comes, so I'm the person to ask.
There's an app for that, babe. There's an app for that. My app is great. My app is great. I'm even going to big it up. To monitor your monthly, the Flow app, FLO app is so brilliant. Like, to me, it's so brilliant because it monitors it and it also gives you like very interesting like little articles. And then it will map like your hormonal changes. So the other day I could not stop eating. I mean, I eat a lot anyway. So for me to notice I'm overeating when I eat a lot, I'm eating a lot. It's a lot of food I was consuming that day. It was a lot. And then I felt like every maybe like 10 to 15 minutes, I was looking for food. I was like, what is going on? Is this the new COVID thing? Like, is this the new thing that's happening for me?
Sorry, Jorden, was this after?
Oh, after what?
Was it after your monthly?
No. I went on my app to check because I thought, what's going on? And it literally said, oh, during these days, you may feel more hunger. You may feel tired. You may like feel tiredness. And I was like, oh,
that makes total sense.
It makes so much sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, it just made sense. I thought, okay, yeah.
I don't need an app to tell me that.
But then sometimes you forget. Sometimes you'll be like, why am I in a bad mood?
Yeah. Why am I tired?
Why am I tired? Yeah. And it's a reminder. Why am I not this a few days of the month? I can't sleep.
You can't sleep. There's something else. It's real.
And even to make it even more specific, I looked at my Just Eat account because I order food. It's all around food. This is going to sound so mad, but for 3-4 months ago, I ordered a kebab on the same day of every month. Does that make sense? Like, I can't. I ordered the kebab on the same. It was like the 14th, the 15th, the 16th of subsequent months. That's not a coincidence. My body was like, today, kebab.
Our bodies are amazing. I think women's bodies are just amazing. Yeah, I actually did acupuncture recently because I had really bad period pains, and I did acupuncture about 3 months ago. No, 4 months ago. And actually, I had about 3-4 sessions. And can you believe I don't have period pains anymore? I've suffered from period pains since I was about 11. I don't have period pains anymore. My periods are no longer heavy, so I'm having normal flow. So I have light flow, heavy for a couple of days, and light flows. My period used to last 7 days. It's now 5 days. It's unbelievable. I can't even explain to you the transformation in this. And I only had about 4 sessions, and my acupuncturist was like, because it was one of my friends who recommended me, and I'm like, I'm into holistic things anyway, because I don't take paracetamol or anything for my period pains. I'm just there in pain. And I had 3 or 4 sessions, and he was like, it won't take you that long, in terms of getting you back on track. And I think because Chinese medicine is very fascinating in its nature, and they test all the different pulses and stuff. And yeah, I've had normal periods for the last 3 months.
Wow.
Yeah. No heavy bleeding. None of that. Yeah, it's been a lifesaver, honestly.
I would say for any ailment, period pain, backache, eczema, whatever you've got, go to the Chinese. They have got a remedy for everything.
Absolutely. I just had to have needles in my feet and my hands and my legs. And the funny thing is, he hit a nerve, and I was like, ah! I screamed because the first few sessions was fine, like I didn't feel anything. But one of the sessions, he really hit a nerve, and that was just the most strangest sensation I've ever had.
That is self-inflicted pain.
You know what? It's absolutely fine because you don't really feel it. Like the needles are not that deep, and it's like there's a way in which they kind of pull it in as well, which is not overly. It's not painful.
They're not going to see our faces right now, but if everyone could see our faces, we're all absolutely disgusted by the words that are coming out of my friend.
Yeah, we were all looking at her like, what?
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's honestly, it's been a lifesaver.
You know what? That's interesting, and I think it's interesting that you even raised this as a topic because this links into what we're focusing on this week. Our topic is around Black women receiving healthcare and also linking it to the controversy between Candice Brathwaite and Rochelle Humes that happened as well. Did you guys follow that story about the Black women mortality rate during childbirth and the drama that ensued following Candice and Rochelle becoming the host of the show? Did you guys follow that?
As you were speaking, it just dawned on me that event was basically what that whole show was about Black women not being heard.
Yep.
It literally just dawned on me. Like, I knew it was about Candice Brathwaite, and she's been advocating for Black women's rights in healthcare forever.
Yep.
If you think about Black women's mortality rates, and you think of Candice Brathwaite because she's been behind it, and then to hear that Rochelle Humes got it, my first reaction was like, huh?
Yeah.
And then as you're speaking, I'm just like, but this is exactly what she was talking about. But our voices not being heard in the hospital. And again, I'm trying to give them a voice, and you've just again taken the voice away from me. There is a message that the BBC put out time and time again. Just like how they thought it was okay to say 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Like, you guys keep putting, and do you know what? In the grand scheme of things, if they didn't have such a bad reputation, maybe it wouldn't have been that bad. But their reputation is shocking.
Yeah. Well, I think that's why there was so much backlash. I mean, for people that don't know, yeah, Candice Brathwaite, she's an author. She's a women's rights activist. She focused on Black women and their rights, and has for a long time focused on the topic of Black mortality rates during childbirth. So Black women are 4 times more likely to die in childbirth than white women. Asian women are twice as likely to die in childbirth than white women in this here UK, in this country that we are in currently. These are current stats. This is what's currently happening. And she's been, pioneering in trying to understand this. She's been researching, doing all this stuff. It's just relevant to this topic is that she's a proud dark-skinned Black woman. Rochelle is a fair mixed race woman. And then there's confusion about, who was meant to front this documentary. But to me, it just feels that if this is your specialism, Candice, then there shouldn't be a discussion about who is the face of this documentary. It's surely, if the research is Candice's, then the documentary is Candice's. Like that should be what happens. No, but that's not what's happened. Yeah,
I think what happened was Candice brought the topic. Her team brought the topic to BBC. They pitched it.
Yeah,
and for all in terms of purposes, Candice thought she was getting the documentary up until I think the back end of last year, where she was then told that actually they were going to go with Rochelle Humes. The BBC have since come back and said actually both ideas were pitched at the same time. You were never in the running. It's just that they decided to go with that side rather than your side. To me, it sounds fishy. It sounds fishy, and it sounds like a story we've heard 1,000 times before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, do you guys feel like that so one of the things they mentioned in the discussion was that the idea of discovery in a documentary changes and helps the audience to go through the process of whatever they're learning. So, for example, when they did the SPAC Nation documentary, they took somebody who isn't a SPAC Nation member, and then they went through the story with them. So as the journalist is learning, he or she is having an honest reaction to what is being taught. So one of the things they suggested was that because Rochelle doesn't necessarily have all of the knowledge attached to it that Candice does, it can help the audience go with her on the journey as they discover the statistics and the personal stories.
I mean, I think that's an interesting point. I guess from a psychological perspective and from an emotive side, like somebody who hasn't been through it to kind of gauge their reaction to it as in when they discover what's really going on. But the truth be told is that if this documentary is about us as Black women and what we are going through, we're 4 times more likely to die during childbirth, and there's a Black woman that's done so much research and advocated for us as Black females, then surely it should be something that we be able to visually relate to. So for me, I personally feel like I would like to see a Black woman present such a show, because for me, it's like we already know the colorism and stuff that we're dealing with, and that our voices are just kind of muted. And one of the reasons why we are dying during childbirth is because we don't actually have a voice, and there's this toxic culture that us as Black women have to be strong, and that we're not actually taking that seriously during childbirth, because we're perceived in some sort of way to be these strong, resilient beings. And my own experience of giving birth, when I had my son, I remember one of the matrons in the hospital was actually like to me, "Oh, you're kind. your type. I know that you usually have, I know that you usually have your babies really, really quickly. Yeah, so she said that to me, and I was like,
what ethnicity she was.
She was white.
Do you need to ask? So I knew.
And
but I asked that because I know people that have had shocking experiences with black nurses.
Yeah.
Because it's like a common thread, like you're all one and the same, regardless of race. The treatment that I've heard a lot of black women have through childbirth, the nurses have actually been all races.
Yeah.
Well, I think a different element with a white nurse to a black nurse, fine. So maybe there's a concern that nurses, their delivery and their biases might be all over the place. But I think there's medical evidence to suggest that white healthcare practitioners don't think that black people feel pain.
Yeah.
And so you might have a black nurse who gives you attitudes, but that's different from I'd rather you give me attitude than not think I'm feeling pain.
You know what? I think it's very toxic either way. And the reason why I say this is that I've seen quite a few of my family members giving birth, and I've seen black, particularly African nurses respond quite negatively to a family member giving birth and being in pain. And actually her ideology was, to keep quiet, you've got to be strong, this is nothing, this is something small, you're only giving birth, like this is, there's only one baby, you're not having twins and stuff like that. So that was the kind of nature that particular family member experienced when she was giving birth. When I've given birth, I've had quite positive experiences, and the midwives were actually white. And that midwife that made the comment, she actually delivered the baby, and I had my son like 2.5 hours later after I came into hospital. So it was very speedy, it was very, very, very quick. But again, that toxic notion that, Jorden is right, that you don't feel pain. So there's nurses that are thinking, okay, you're black, you're not going to feel pain because you're automatically strong and resilient, and so on and so forth. And then by doing that, they ignore the warning signs. So lots of women are, hemorrhaging and bleeding to death, or they're in some serious pain, they're not being taken seriously. It's just showing you that as black women, that we are not heard. There's all this systemic injustices and racism in the medical field are so bad in relation to us, and that means that we will have long-term conditions, fibroids and all that stuff, because we're going back and forth and we're not being heard. We should actually just deal with it. We need to get on with it. And if you're a white practitioner, you may think that we don't experience pain because we're black and we're supposed to be strong. If you're a black practitioner, you're actually thinking that actually we're strong, and you've got that mentality as well. So actually it's so deep rooted in not just the cultural side of it, but the systemic side of it as well. So actually there's not really much hope from both sides. I think equally they're both as bad. I
don't think they're equally both as bad. I don't. I think a black, because even the two examples you've given. So you've got a black nurse who's saying you're strong, you can do this, minimizing your pain,
not saying you're strong. Not saying you're strong, expecting you to be strong.
Oh, okay.
Because you're giving back. Because that's the notion of us as black women. We need to be strong.
Yeah.
As you're giving birth and you're clearly in pain. This is your first child. You've never gone anything. You've never been through this. Not very patient, not very understanding, not very nurturing during the process, and actually incredibly gave lots of stress to that person who was giving birth, because she was really, really distraught and distressed.
Yeah, I think the main issue for me is that in the nurses' eyes, we are all one and the same. In their eyes, I see this day in, day out. I deliver X amount of babies a day, X amount of babies a week, X amount of babies a year. I know what to expect because I see on a regular. You come in with your first child, or you might be your second. You don't know anything. So let me tell you what you're going to experience. And I think that's the fundamental problem. They treat us as all the same, not realizing that our medical histories are different. Our family histories are different. The things that we experience, our threshold of pain is different. Everything is different. Everything should not be treated the same.
I agree.
But are they treating us the same? Because black women are dying 4 times more. So I don't know. Are they treating us the same? Because the stats don't say that they are. That there is a racial element. Otherwise, the black women and white women's stats would be the same. No, if we're being treated the same in hospitals, it would be roughly the same.
But when you guys say though that the issue is that childbirth is a huge risk on any woman's life, so maybe the systemic problem goes across the board on both races, but the problems that women come into hospitals with appear to be more severe to women's health, because we're kind of dealing with life and death when it comes to childbirth. Wouldn't you say that that's what it is, rather than it being specifically to black women or coloured women?
I think we have to take into consideration, what like Cheryl said, the medical history that people are coming in with. So people might come in with complex medical history. Some of us developed gestational diabetes during birth, some high blood pressure. Your liver can shut down during pregnancy. You can have all these complications. So you can go from being a really healthy person during pregnancy, before pre-pregnancy, and then develop a lot of medical conditions whilst you're pregnant. But ultimately, it's your voice being heard. You are the one who's going through giving birth. No matter how many times you as a midwife has delivered babies, you have a duty of care towards that individual giving birth and the baby to deliver them as safely as possible. Pregnancy and giving birth is a very high risk situation anyway, but then we're all put into different categories. So, there's low, medium, high risk anyway, and they assess you before, throughout your pregnancy. So some women are already coming in high risk. Some women are coming in with gestational diabetes. Some women have cholestasis. I think it's called cholestasis, where their liver shuts down, and you have you'll get itchy palms, and you'll get itchiness underneath your foot sole, and that means that your liver's shutting down. Some of us don't develop enough amniotic fluid, so that it automatically puts you in a high risk category. So it means that you're going to obviously need a high level of supervision. You might need a doctor on call.
I think we all accept that pregnancy is a risky time in any woman's life, and I think this is why it's become such an emotive topic, because it is a risky time for any woman, any race, any age. It's a risky procedure to have. We get that. I think we know that, but clearly something is so the fact that it's risky for all women who are able to give childbirth, if the risk room is there, the fact that Black women are dying more, there's something going on there, and there has to be an element linked to race causing that to happen. Otherwise, we be seeing across the board records of white and Black women dying in childbirth. We're not seeing that. So if a woman goes into hospital, if a Black woman goes into hospital with health complications and a white woman goes into hospital with health complications, they both give birth, the Black woman is less likely to leave the hospital alive. There's something going on, and we have to look at that for what it is, because people are dying.
From the articles that I've read and from the feedback that I've got, it's them not being, it's the women themselves not being listened to, but also equally their husbands. So a lot of these women are coming into the hospital with their husbands. The wives will say to their husbands, "I'm in serious pain." The husbands are advocating on their wife's behalf, saying, "Look, my wife's in serious pain. What are you going to do?" Husbands are equally frightened and scared. They can see that their wife is in distress. They know their wife, more than the medical professional in that sense, and they can see that their wife is in distress, giving that feedback to the nurses, and they're not actually taking them seriously. They're not being listened to. So it's not even just the mothers that are not being listened to. It's the people that actually are the advocates, the family members, the husbands that are coming in just there to support their wife during the process of giving birth. Their wishes being dismissed as well. And we all have medical notes, and in those medical notes it tells us, it shows how we want how we want to give birth, the position, whether you want the baby to rest on our chest straight away, all these things. And actually, if you're not looking, like Cheryl said, if you're not treating this on an individualized basis, and you're not, and the medical notes clearly say, the birthing notes clearly say, actually, I want my husband to advocate. Me and my husband we've gone through the birthing plan. He knows my birthing plan. Please, can you listen to him if I'm in a state of distress? And actually, you're dismissing the husband, you're dismissing the mum, the sister, whoever's around. That is very, very, very concerning. It's really, really, really concerning, because I just couldn't believe when I read that article about the doctor who actually Black doctor went in to give birth, and she died. Yeah, she died, and I'm like, okay, so if a Black doctor is going in and she's losing her life, then
so you would assume she has a medical language. This is her domain. So you would even though she's giving birth and she's in pain, you would assume that she is confident in this environment, maybe more so confident than other people. And even she, with all her education and knowledge and confidence, can't make it out of the hospital alive. There's a problem.
There's something about Black people in general not being believed when they express what is wrong with them. So, even a real example, there was a point where my dad was really ill, and we didn't think he was going to make it. He was really, really ill. Like, ambulance coming to our house every single day. We couldn't think. No one knew what was wrong with him. They'd take him to the hospital. They couldn't figure out what was wrong. They'd bring him back, and it was so bad that people were coming in. They were coming to our house to almost say their goodbyes. And none of the doctors could figure out what it was. It wasn't until he went in, and there just happened to be a Black doctor, but she took the time to look at what his symptoms are, and what she suggested, none of the other doctors had ever suggested. And it turns out that what it was, but it just took that one person that was sympathetic to the situation to just go that extra mile to figure out what that was. And I had another story even the other day where a girl, when I heard this, I was like, that doctor needs to be castrated. So this girl went into the GP and said she was complaining about stomach bloating. So her stomach had bloated beyond what she deemed as normal. And she went in, explained the symptoms, and the doctor's first response was, maybe you need to lose some weight.
And I'm going to assume this is a black girl. This is a black girl? Black girl, white doctor? Oh, we don't know.
Yes.
We don't know. Oh, okay.
Yes, I think so. Actually, I don't know. But a different race, definitely. And she said her first reaction was, I'm not doing this with you. So she picked up her bag and walked out. So when she got home, her aunt happened to be there, and her aunt was like, well, in our family, we've got a history of fibroids. So she explained to all the women in the family that had fibroids, and then she called the GP and asked to see a different doctor, not that particular man. And it turns out that that's what it was. There's this thing of, it can't be that serious. I've heard of so many people. They go in and they even someone that I know that was close to me when they were younger, she was experiencing belly aches, and the doctor's response to a child was, maybe they're getting bullied, so they don't want to go to school.
I just wonder if it's linked to, because obviously we're looking at it from a racial element, and as you're speaking and giving me these examples, it's as if like the medical professionals who have dealt with in the examples that you've given are, it's just like it's completely minimizing. And it reminded me of, you know, when I don't know if you have, well, you've got children, you know, we might babysit, or even your kids, they fall over, they run up to you crying, and you're like, it's okay, like, you're all right, you know, let me see, you blow on it, you kiss it better, you send them on their way. And it's almost the same thing that's happening here. It's very much like, I think it's called like infantilization. So you are babying, you're treating black and brown people like they're children who don't know themselves, who don't know how they feel, who couldn't possibly have the language to tell you that they're in pain, and people are leaving medical establishments with no diagnosis and then dying from their symptoms. And I know what we spoke about, like slavery before, when we spoke about vulnerability, but it comes down to it again. There's links. There's definite links there. The infantilization of black people talking to us like we're children, like we don't get it. We're educated, you know. We're educated. We know ourselves. We know when something's not right. Our intuition is strong. Spiritually, we know when something's up. Black people can feel the intuition and can have conversations with God. Something's not right.
About a year ago, I was it was a little bit more than a year. I got this really bad sore throat. I went to the doctor, the GP. I sat in there, waited in the room awkwardly, got into the doctor, told him my throat and my chest is all really aching. He was like, okay, what you need to do is get lemon and hot water and have paracetamol and go to sleep. And so I remember leaving the place and I was feeling really teary, and I called my mum as I was walking home, and she was like, what did they say? And I said, they said I should just take holistic medicine and paracetamol. And she said, you need to turn around right now and go back and go and tell them you want to see a different doctor. You don't want to see that doctor, whatever his name is, because we're not about to get a mouth practice suit. And tell them you need to see another doctor and you want to re-explain your symptoms. Got to the reception. Reception lady was surprised to see me again, and I just started crying. Half of it was theatrical. Most of it was real because I was in real-time pain. And so this lady was so nice. She rebooked me in and then put my name back on the system to see a different doctor. And I was just saying to her, I'm in so much pain. So then about 10 minutes later, I guess Dr. So-and-so saw my name on the list and came to tell her again that I've already seen this patient, so why is her name on there? He came in with so much vim, saw my face. I went into the room and had a quiet conversation with her, yelling, saying, why is she back here? Why is she seeing a different doctor? She goes, because she's requested to. And obviously, I didn't know that my rights were I can request to see a different doctor. He's mad at her, and he can't be real time mad at me. It all ended up that I got antibiotics because it was that bad. And now this was I think this was around December, let's say. Cut to 3 months later, and everyone's got COVID, and you're just thinking, how many of us have struggled with COVID symptoms, and we've just been told at the start, especially, oh, you're fine, you're just sick, she's trying to get time off of work or whatever, and they haven't been believed. And it's a little bit nerve-wracking. I do want to say, disclaimer, I don't think it's all doctors. I don't think it's all nurses. This is not a generalization.
Not at all.
Of course
this
not.
is a systemic thing, because there is a doctor right now called Dr. Mkwande, and he's written a book about symptoms on black skin, because there is a huge hole in the medical knowledge about what certain symptoms look like on black skin. So if it doesn't present on Jordan's skin as it does on my textbook, which is typically on Oyinbo's skin, I'm just going to assume that Jordan's not telling the truth. And most doctors are taught to listen to exactly what the body is saying rather than to listen to what the patient is saying.
And the textbook that they've studied from are all white examples in the textbook.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think that in terms of how we practice as practitioners, there's a lack of empathy anyway with some professionals, and I think in relating to when they see black males or females or children, whatever it is.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like empathy is necessary, and I think you're absolutely right. And I think it's a cultural thing. I think it's a cultural thing that you have service users who present in a particular way, which, why am I even trying to be PC? So black people will come in, they'll be louder, maybe they're complaining, they're cussing, it's more theatrical, as you said, Nicola, and other people won't understand that. The practitioner won't get it, won't understand it, and so the less time is given to understand what the symptoms are, and then we have people leaving, doctors' surgeries or leaving children's services not feeling that they've been listened to, and the symptom gets worse. And that is a systemic thing all day, without a doubt. I remember working in local authority, won't name which one, and having a family. They were a black family. People expressed that they were quite difficult to work with, all of that. So I said, okay, the case got allocated to me. Like I want the difficult families to work with. But hey ho, fine, no problem. This is my job. Met them within 2-3 sessions. It was like we got down to it. We got down to what the problem was. Could put the help and support in, because culturally, racially, there were similarities. We could understand each other and speak in a language that everybody understood, so we could get to some kind of solution. Now, I think it was easier for me as a black practitioner to be able to go into that house and navigate it more so than a white practitioner. But then these are the discussions that we need to have. We can't just pretend that this is not the issue or the case. And a lot of my white colleagues were able to say, like, you know what, I would not have been able to navigate this family the same way you have been able to, because we're
why you don't have magical powers. At the end of the day, if you're all professionals, then you should all be able to deal with it with a level of profession. One thing that I spoke to a psychologist actually, and she said, what happens with white practitioners in some cases is when they are faced with a patient that is of a different ethnicity, mainly Black, Brown, Asian, before they can get to the root of that patient's whatever it is, they've got to deal with their own prejudices and things that they can't connect with. So they deal with that first, and it's like a subconscious thing. You deal with that first, and then, so you've got that internal dialogue in you, like, oh, well, I understand. I'm not really from the same background. I don't want to come across like I'm being racist or I'm being prejudiced. Let me soften my tone. There's all of that thing going on, that when you went in, you just got straight to the point, because the issue at hand is this, and this is the thing that I need to solve. But then if you flip it, when you go and deal with a white family, you are not thinking, oh, I'm Black, I'm not going to be able to understand that. We come from different backgrounds. So why is it the other way around?
There's an element of, actually, I don't want to deal with this. I don't need to deal with it, and it's not a problem. It's not a me problem. It's a them problem. And actually, what the issue with that is, when Victoria Klimbe died, they assigned Victoria Klimbe a Black social worker, but she was of Caribbean ethnicity. So there was already cultural differences between her being of an African nationality, African heritage, and assigning her with a Black Caribbean social worker, thinking that was going to solve all the problems. But the social worker herself, she came with her own prejudices. She came with her own kind of stuff, which she didn't totally understand. That family culturally. Like, for example, Victoria Klimble had scabies, and she just didn't even recognize that as, she just saw it as a skin condition. She didn't think, skin condition because she's come from Africa. She didn't think of it as, actually, this is scabies, this is a real thing, this is contagious, this is, so on and so forth. So it's like you want to put like for like, but you also have to understand that there's different dynamics within cultures, African culture within the Caribbean culture, within the Scottish culture, within the Irish culture. So I think it's naive for people to, yes, there are some similarities that we can touch upon, and you may, have similar interests, or the way you might be relatable, but we can't assume the fact that you are going to be the person that's going to resolve that problem if you have come in with your own, prejudice and discrimination. So I think that's a big issue. And like you said rightly, Shares, like I work with service users, Black, white, Asian. I never once think to myself, oh, that's a white service user, I'm going to work with her differently as I do to the Black service user.
I know we veered into social care, but thinking about medical practitioners, I don't think that there's necessarily a conscious idea that I'm a white doctor. I'm going to see this Bangladeshi woman now, and I'm going to treat her differently. I think there's an unconscious bias.
Yeah.
Based
on unconscious bias.
And that's where, if we're thinking about solutions, because we need to start wrapping up, that's where I think they have this unconscious bias training. I think it needs to be so intense to make you really reflect and focus in on what your unconscious bias are and how they are impacting your practice. I think that nothing's going to move forward until, at the end of the day, a majority of the people in these professions, I would say a majority of the people in these professions are white. We live in a country that predominantly is a white country. This is what's happening. There needs to be open communication and language about race, about racism, about bias. All these things, it needs to be on the table, because it being unconscious and not spoken about, we have people dying. We have Black women dying. We have Black people dying. Black and brown people dying. It's just not on.
I think it's so deep rooted, it's so systemic. Like Jorden rightly said, it's because we're a minority, and already in the medical field, we are a minority in terms of doctors, practitioners, nurses, and so on and so forth. And the unconscious bias that is coming out needs to be spoken about. How do you move forward and then try to get that resolved? And how are people that are being supervised in the medical field? Obviously psychologists have ongoing supervision. They have ongoing supervision, and they will touch on and address, the unconscious bias and the prejudice and discriminations that you could come in, and how that will impact on your practice. I'm not sure what that is like in the medical profession, and how ongoing that supervision is, whether or not you're a qualified doctor and actually by the end of it, I'm a qualified doctor, who's telling me anything, who can say anything to me. Yes, you're assigned with a particular council or whatever, of doctors and so on and so forth.
Yeah,
but it's quite tragic. It's tragic because it will make, but I think we also need to know our rights. We also need to make sure that we know our rights and that we are quoting our rights when it comes down to it. Because ultimately, if we are in a position where we're being challenged or misheard or not even heard at all, then we need to make sure that we are fully aware, especially when you're giving birth, because there's so much stuff going on for you. You can't really, you can barely talk around people that will advocate for you and say, actually, it's my wife's right to be A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Yeah. And this is what her birthing notes, always reflecting on the practice and what the legislation says. So I think for me, I've got private medical insurance, so for this particular reason, for these reasons, I've got private. So
the difficult thing is that you can know your rights as much as you want, but if you're not being listened to, hold on, you're giving birth. It's so sad. You're giving birth, and you've got to be thinking about.
You've got to be thinking about it.
Whether or not
you have to think about it.
You have to be considering what if the midwife isn't listening to me. What an absolute shame. What a sin and a shame that this is what we're having to go through. It's really, really, really. And I just come back to what you're saying, Esther, about your sister in America. But I also know your sister in America has very good healthcare.
Yeah.
Would she have experienced the same level of care if she had gone to? I know that the system's different, but if she had lesser healthcare. Is something I would want to consider.
Probably not, especially her being a British citizen ultimately, but now she's gained like her American status. There is a slight privilege there because her husband was in the Navy, so they've had great health medical benefits, which has contributed ultimately to having two very successful childbirth. So yeah, I think that definitely did impact on it. But those people who don't necessarily have the means, the financial means, I wonder if the statistics are the same. If Black women all chose to go private and then was having our children in private hospitals with that luxury in that sense, I wonder what the statistics are like in that sense.
And you know what? It's so interesting, but because I don't think it'll be different. And also, I was reading an article the other day that there's quite high mortality rates in private hospitals, but I can't speak too much on that. Well, because that shocked me. But yeah, I'll just kind of leave that there.
Listen to your conversation. What you were describing about having very specific biases to different cultures, for example, a Caribbean social worker to an African child. It feels as though you guys are asking for the money at the end of a rainbow. it seems as though your solution is a little bit too idealistic. How will you perfectly match up every social worker with a perfect child unless somebody starts working with them to know what the child's needs are?
I don't think that's the solution, and I think if that's the case, we'll be chasing our tails forever. I think the actual question is, why is there a systemic problem, and how do we break down that systemic problem? So we understand that generally the majority of the population are Caucasian. So how do they get so that they can apply the same lessons and the same teachings? Like we said, it's not about equality, it's about equity. So I am looking at the person on the individual basis, based on that person's individual needs, and not what the textbook says.
Yeah,
but if I'm learning from the textbook, I'm so sorry, guys. I feel like you're not really being realistic about this. If I'm learning from a textbook, I have to apply real knowledge in real experiences to it. By that time, I'm learning from the colleagues around me who are already in the matrix systemically and who aren't going to be teaching me open practices of having open-mindedness. The only reason why I say this is because it's a bit unrelated, but I am 32 years old. Every time I go and buy something that requires ID, if there is a specific gender and race of people out there who are the only people that ID me. Nobody else IDs me, but this specific demographic, and I just feel like I'm not gonna do that. Any shop I go to, different shops, petrol stations, whatever I'm buying from different places.
I don't care about the location. I said who. Who?
There is a specific demographic, gender and ethnicity who will ID me, to the point where it's become a joke now. And I'll text Cheryl and say, I got ID today. Guess what the person looked like.
Well, can we guess? Who is it? Who?
Even if you do guess, I have bare people that I love that aren't like that, so I can't even.
But see, even sorry to cut you, Nicola. Even this discussion that we're having now, and you're saying guess, this is part of the problem and the issue is that we're not being we struggle to be open about these things. And I think the solution because clearly there's a reason why there's this secret particular demographic who ID you and other people don't, right? Fine. So that's a discussion to have. But even in this conversation that we're having now, and the kind of like the struggle to really talk about that kind of openly because it's uncomfortable is part of the issue. What the solution to me, the solution to me is a white doctor or a black Caribbean doctor or whoever it is being able to say, okay, look, I am a white middle class male, privately school educated, lived in the suburbs, now working in a London hospital. You, my patient, are a young Bangladeshi second generation woman. You're here making this complaint. I'm not sure what the issue. Explain to me. We're different here. We're different. This is not my experience. Explain to me what the issue is. Can I bring in a colleague? Can I talk me through what the problem is? Because me and you have different graces. I can't understand what's happening here. That is a start to the solution, rather than us there being assumptions based on ethnicities. Bring it to the forefront. Let's have that conversation.
No, Jorden,
I agree.
it doesn't work like that. It can't work like that, because I've literally just explained, I've gone to different stores in different locations in different parts of, not the world, because I ain't traveled in a long time, but and it is the same demographic who challenges my age and whether or not I'm telling the truth. How do I go to each and every single store and explain to them, every time I come, it's somebody that looks like you who will say this to me? Because it's a widespread problem. Do you get what I'm saying? The reason why I use that analogy is because it's widespread. I can only tackle you when I see you and tell you, hey, by the way, it's people that look like you that always challenge me as to whether or not I'm actually 32. And the reaction is almost always the same. Oh, wow, you really don't look your age. These times, there's one situation where her colleague, damn, I said a woman. Now I know it's a woman.
So it's white women. Okay, yeah, got it.
It's not, and that's what's crazy. It's not white women.
It's not white women.
It's not white women. Her colleague comes over and I said, oh, you've had exposure. I can always tell people who've had exposure to different cultures because you've looked at me, you said, what are you talking about? Why are you trying? No, she's fine. Just let her through.
Meanwhile, I walked in with my car keys.
Right?
Exactly.
How have I got car keys? I have
exactly.
But why do you not
think
that you questioning it is a challenge?
I don't mind. I don't mind telling. Okay, so my thing is, if Jorden, you do me wrong, and on a different occasion, Esther does me wrong, I know that I can challenge you, and in some way, because of your communication, I challenge Esther. There will be a change in our dynamic. Yes, but if I challenge June in Sainsbury's, and then I challenge Christine in Wilkinson, there is probably not much likelihood that there is a solution to change what she's doing. I mean, poor Bobby went to buy knives for my mum the other day and she bought other kitchen equipment. They played her dirty. They were calling all kinds of people and saying, oh, and we just need to check this and check that. And they had her waiting around for about 15 minutes to buy a kitchen knife with other kitchen utensils. And then she paid for the knife. And then as she was going, she looked in the bag to see if her stuff was in there. They had removed the knife out of the bag and put it back on the counter, even though she just paid for it. And she said, oh, where's the knife? She goes, oh, I put it in the bag. She goes, no, you didn't. Look, it's empty. Showed her the bag. And then she said, oh, my bad. And then she took it from behind the counter to give to her. So my issue is I believe there is an ultimate solution, but I feel like sometimes when we as people of color discuss this, we kind of go idealistically, something needs to happen. We don't really have a practical way of dealing with it. I can probably deal with the guy in the pharmacy because I go there often. His pattern of behavior will change. Wilkinson, I don't go there all the time. I don't go to Sainsbury's all the time. As like all those places.
But what you're saying is that how do we change the systemic? That's what it's not for us. It's not for us to change. That's for white people to change, or for non-black people to change.
People who are or don't come from an ethnic background, basically white people, need to be very honest in themselves and realize that, one, they do not have all the answers, and two, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to say, I do not know. I don't come from your background, so I don't understand it. Let me ask you. It doesn't diminish your education. It doesn't diminish your masters. It doesn't diminish anything. Let me just ask. And then that's the point that you make the change.
I think there was people from the demographic, the certain demographic that were responsible for being the perpetrators of these girls in the Rochdale cases, and there was lots of people trying to be politically correct. Yes, it was more complex than that, but actually just saying that as it was factually, that this is how it was, and understanding how that impacted and affected these young white females that were being sexually exploited by these particular race and gangs and stuff like that. And I feel like you said, humanistic approach is really, really important. Empathy is really important in any line of work when you're dealing with people with conditions, when you're dealing with mental health, when you're dealing with anything regarding us as human beings. If there's a lack of empathy in your practice, how are you going to be able to even want to understand and explore more what's going on for that person?
Because it's not a race thing.
Empathy puts up barriers. Lack of empathy puts up barriers because you don't want to know, you don't feel like you need to know, you don't feel like an obligation to know. So actually, lack of empathy in your practice, and I know us as practitioners, Jay, that we have to be very mindful of having empathy and then balancing out and not allowing that to affect our practice so much so that, then there's all disguised compliance and there's all these other issues. But we have to be trained in the sense to have some sense of empathy. Otherwise, you're just there looking at people as, like I said, stats and numbers, but there isn't.
There is a racial element to that. And we need to wrap up, because let me just say this again. Every episode, we're trying to wrap up. Esther wants to throw a gem. Remember, every episode I say this, listeners, go back to episode 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever episodes, and I think every episode I say this. I'm getting my
59th minute. Esther starts the new topic.
And today's topic is at the end of this episode, she wants to talk about child sexual exploitation. No, mental notes. We'll have to do another episode on that. I am getting my t-shirt printed as soon as possible, because this cannot go on. It cannot. It cannot go on. And this is why our clubhouse will go on for 6 hours. 5 hours, 35 minutes. Esther will be like, actually, black men hate black women. Then we have to have another topic. Then we have to do it again. Then we're online for 3-4 hours again.
We still need to do the love languages, and that being linked to what we had in our childhood as well. We still need to touch on that, because I'm very intrigued with that topic.
Maybe this should be our first clubhouse room. Let's discuss that, ladies.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah. Yes. That's happen. Okay. Let's do that. Guys, it's been real. It's been great meeting you guys again over Zoom. When will we be able to again?
See you again.
When will we be able to meet again? Honestly, it's just too much, but we're hanging in there. We're hanging.
We are indeed.
Who wants to wrap up with our prayer?
Heavenly Father, we just want to thank you for again showing up and showing out. We understand that the things that we do are not by our strength and not by our might, but by your strength and by your might. So Heavenly Father, we ask that you continue to speak through us and continue to reveal yourself. We know that the death disparity between ethnicities is far and wide. But Heavenly Father, you do not see race, color, or creed. You see children of God, O Lord. You see human beings that were made in your image and not by the accolades that they've collected, Heavenly Father. So Heavenly Father, we ask that you continue to permeate the love of Christ, peace, joy, all the fruits of the Spirit through us, Heavenly Father, that we can live in a community that is not filled with hatred and not filled with bias, Heavenly Father, because you do not see any of that. So we want to thank you for the lives of Esther, Jorden, Nicola, and myself, and can you continue to keep us, continue to protect us in Jesus' mighty name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank
Guys,
you.
follow us on Instagram, Not Your Typical Tea. Like, subscribe, share, save, all of those things. We need your support. So yeah, please do continue to share us. If you've got any topics or you just want to give us a shout out, Not Your Typical T3@gmail.com. And there's a couple of listeners that week in and week out comment and share. So I think maybe next pod we need to give some big ups to those, because there's a couple of people on YouTube that comment every time we post. So
yeah,
just know that it doesn't go on.
We are grateful. Thank you for your support.
Most
Guys,
definitely.
it's a wrap. We'll see you in 2 weeks, son.
Bye.
Bye.